Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. Oh man, I just gotta warn you right now. I am not like at my best for whatever reason. Didn't sleep very well last night. It's just kind of weird, kind of a weird thing, but it's okay. We're gonna go with it. So really quick, we got the Treasury refunding announcement here in 2.5 minutes. Very, very important number for us in the Treasuries. So we're gonna be watching that. Let's come over to the charts really quickly here. We do get some news coming up. Where is it? Volume profile. Okay, so you can see here, oil up really, I mean, it was up big yesterday, but it's up really big today. That's a big move. E-mini also up overnight. They might have to come back a little bit, but we'll see. Treasuries yesterday up really big, coming back quite a bit, but again, we've got some significant news with the Treasury refunding announcement. So we'll see where that moves us at as well. And then let's just come down here. We'll look at the currencies over here. You can see that the dollar sliding down again and going below 93. Just absolutely slaughtered there. Okay. I think that my data is messed up because I'm not getting the micros here. See how these are changing that this isn't? I don't have any charts up for that micro, so I don't know. Okay, well, it's okay. I'm not going to make a trade in the E-mini. I want to trade the Treasury on this. Is it 10-year moving either? I don't know. Thing is one of my charts is loading. Having issues with my yeah. Let's see here. If it was more time, I would go and fix it, but that's okay. Let's just watch the announcements first. See where it goes. Okay. So it looks like treasuries are headed lower here off of this. Off of the refunding announcement. I don't know. I haven't gotten a number yet. So I'm just going to come and reload everything now. Let's just close. Let's just close NinjaTrader for a moment. And yeah, NinjaTrader's definitely unhappy with. I think that it's one of my indicators, and it never throws like an error or anything. It's probably that dollar index. just doesn't doesn't always act the way that it should. It's like it has a hard time dealing with uh adding so many instruments. Is I guess the best way I can put it. Okay, so let's try that again. Good morning, Uzi. Okay, that's a little better. Somebody's asking me a question here in Discord that it's kind of interesting but hey, I think he's focused on the wrong things. He was asking me um why you would trade this yen compared to other futures. Let's see if we can go find it here. Okay, so we got a bit of a move down off of the unemployment numbers. Now seeing, and the treasuries did move down off of that refunding announcement. Now, did I get a number over in here? It's not even displaying anything for me. Hmm. And when I look at financial juice, the that number is not even listed. And not what we want. So I guess it's not a normal number. Let's come over and check Forex Factory. Does Forex Factory have it listed? No. Hmm. Man, the dollar is really just getting ripped on today. Okay. Trump's campaign knocks on 1 million doors a week. Is that really true? Says Anita Kumar. I forget who that is. White House correspondent and associate editor of Politico. Okay. Okay, so now that we kind of got everything is calmed down here, looking through it all. Hmm. So longs are really getting hit here. I think though that there's a good chance that we might get a little bit of a flip here. In fact, I think I want to just put an order out. Oh, okay. Still don't have anything, not even on Twitter, about the refunding announcement. Okay, here is the press release. Put it in Discord. U.S. Department of the Treasury is offering 112 billion of Treasury securities to refund approximately 49.5 billion of privately held Treasury notes and bonds maturing on August 15th of 2020. This issuance will raise new cash of approximately 62.5 billion. The securities are 3-year note in the amount of 48 billion maturing in August, a 10-year note in the amount of 38 billion maturing in August 2030, and a 30-year note bond in the amount of 26 billion maturing in August 15th of 2050. 3-year note will be auctioned on a yield basis at 1 o'clock ETT on Tuesday, August 11th. Blah, 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 blah. Projected financing needs and issuance plans. The Treasury continues to face unprecedented borrowing needs as a result of the federal government's response to the COVID-19 outbreak. As a result, the Treasury has substantially increased both bill issuance and coupon auction sizes, raising an unprecedented 1.462 trillion on net since May 1st. In the coming quarters, Treasury anticipates borrowing needs to moderate somewhat but remain elevated on a historical basis. Okay, so what we're going to see here is the treasuries are moving down because there's an expectation of a lot more supply coming into the market than they were expecting before this announcement. But then you also know that the Federal Reserve is just going to come and buy them from you. So I think after this initial move down, and I don't know if what we had there was the initial move down or not, but I think that after that, that we should be able to see a bounce. So Treasury anticipates to be borrowing 947 billion. The July-September borrowing need will ultimately depend on the final provisions of the additional legislation. For prudent risk management, Treasury holds a substantial cash balance to allow it to cover anticipated outflows in case of a temporary interruption to market access. This policy was implemented in 2015 and its objective has not changed. Treasury's recent record high cash balances are driven by several factors, including the unprecedented size and ongoing uncertainty regarding the timing of COVID-19 related outlays. Treasury also seeks to change auction sizes gradually to minimize any potential market disruption. Cool. There's a lot of information in here. Test buyback operation. Okay, very interesting. You know what? I should tweet this out. What's going on here in the 30 year? $26 billion. E-mini kind of bouncing and recovering. That ADP moved down.
Uzi Knesset says just a collapse. No big deal lol.
Well, the move down in the treasuries overnight is significant, isn't it? But the move up yesterday was significant, right? We're back to 03 half. And remember yesterday we were like, oh man, where was it when we started? Yeah, actually we were right about at this same spot before they aggressively moved higher. So, and I believe that the factors that were moving us up yesterday were much more uh will have much more sway long term over the markets than what we just got in the Treasury refunding announcement, right? Because again, like I said, like the Treasury is gonna put a lot of notes out there, but the Federal Reserve is gonna buy them all. I need to fix my camera here. It's a little off. There we go. I think my chair is off center or something today. I have like a glass um uh, floor mat for my chair to sit on, and because it's glass, it just moves on the floor. It doesn't stay put. Okay, Liveswalk now tweeting about it. U.S. Treasury quarterly refunding announcement sees large upward revision to supply size. So E-mini was doing pretty good there for a second, and then they just flipped back around really quickly. Um, uh, Now I'm seeing something a little strange in the E-mini today. I'm only just now realizing that they are well above the the seller's theoretical break even slash stop. So, and the spread between the buyers and the sellers is extremely large. There is a very large amount of shorts outstanding at the moment compared to what we would normally like. Let me see here. Yesterday, what was the highest this ever got during the day session? 11,847, and we're 8,000. But that was during the regular session. So there's actually like double the shorts that there normally would be. Okay, so we finally got a solid uptick. And the 04 half pulling a little bit too. No, Donald Trump finally mentions Obama's political speech at John Lewis's funeral. A terrible, angry speech. Ah, okay. So not as aggressive of a stack. And I should note that the 04 and the 03 half are not really firming up aggressively like they did yesterday. Oh, we just saw somebody add an 03 half, but that's a little tepid. So I'm not so sure that they're ready to just, trend up and shoot out of here. But we are getting a good little trend coming in here. Slower growth in ADP isn't surprising given that people expect more and more unemployment and stimulus checks. Where's the incentive to work if you may get more from unemployment than employment for some people?
Sunday Driver says gold is zooming.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good overnight. This most recent move, not so much, but they're doing pretty good overnight. Yeah.
Sunday Driver says give me credit. I called this gold zoom.
Well, yeah. I'm still not incredibly enthusiastic about the gold trade. So, like the issue is, so here's the issue that I see with gold now moving forward, right? Because we're getting a lot of people going into it, right? Um, and I think that the play in gold is really like, um, you know, uh, lack of confidence in fiat currencies, right? So in that respect, you really have to think of it as an inflationary play, right? Well, the issue that you get there is that right now, you're going to see a lot of money is coming into the market and pumping the markets up. But in the long term, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a really rough road ahead because we have so much debt loaded on top of us. In addition to the lower output gap and everything else that's going on, the real issue that you have, and the thing that the Federal Reserve is concerned about at the very least, is deflation. And if we just look at the history of the past 10 years, deflation has been the case. Like every time that we're concerned about the government printing too much money, and then the other factors that are creating inflation just end up mattering more. So this is a perhaps a headwind that gold could face. So we could continue to see gold move up until, all of the retail traders are in it. But then over the long run, I'm still not convinced that the economic factors that we need for gold to really go all the way to where the gold bugs really want it to go. Because I'm seeing some people saying, oh, gold, $15,000 gold, which is just insane. I mean, that's like 7 times greater than what it is
Sunday
now.
Driver says you say that gold long term is concerning, but then your explanation explains why gold is a good investment. Lol.
But it's not. If we have a deflationary environment, gold is not the place to be. Gold is a hedge against inflation, not deflation. You want to hedge against deflation, or at least you want to start thinking about it, and you should have a balanced portfolio that really factors in both. And that means you want treasuries, believe it or not.
Live Action says remember silver 10 years ago. Mike Salisbury says deflation is very strong natural force. I feel like the Fed just really knows exactly how much money to create to
I
stop
don't know.
deflation.
Sunday Driver says there will be a deflationary event. The Fed will respond with QE and maintaining low rates, which will then whip up inflation.
I mean, again, this is the thesis that I've been hearing for 10 years and it never happened. What is it that is all of a sudden going to create the inflation? Because there's a big stack at for half. Yeah, I mean, I see the case where it's like, oh, we start like some of the things that we've been hearing coming out of the Federal Reserve, not necessarily as like policy, but kind of like their brainstorming and wonk uh, arguments and stuff amongst themselves, is a little concerning, right? Like this whole talk about that they could give money to people directly through a cryptocurrency, and that they could
Sunday
try
Driver
to
says don't
move,
measure inflation
you
with
know,
CPI. They've butchered that index and it no longer really measures inflation. They pull out all the things that are going up in
has
price.
nothing to do with the CPI. I mean, I guess you'll see inflation in various assets, but is inflation okay? Let's back up. Has inflation been a significant factor for gold investments over the last 10 years? Because this is exactly what happened last time around. Was they were announcing QE and everybody was buying gold, and there was a lot of people bought gold, and it was like the really big investment, And then people kind of stopped talking about it for a while. And then the issue continued to be from every measurement, from the CPI, from the PPI, to all of the factors that the Federal Reserve looks at for measures of inflation, trade balance, like everything was just, there's no inflation. There's no inflation. There's no inflation. And gold just completely collapsed. Completely collapsed because the inflation that they were all concerned about never came. So if you
Sunday
can,
driver says gold went up and came back down because the Fed lied. They said QE would never happen again. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. No one will believe their lies again. That's why gold is zooming.
I don't believe that at all. Okay, when that happened, I mean, that was, man, back in those days, I literally would watch CNBC all day. Was all I did was, I was at work and I would open up Thinkorswim and you had that little, you could watch CNBC streaming through there, and I would just listen to CNBC all day. When Aaron Burnett left, I really liked Aaron Burnett. It's kind of weird because I'll admit, if I think a girl is cute, then I will be way more likely to listen to her. But I'm not really that into her. But she's just so smart. And she was such a good analyst, and I thought that she was so fair from a journalist perspective when she was doing business. Since she's moved to CNN, she's just kind of so. But yeah, I listened to CNBC all day, and all anybody ever was doing was arguing about this Sunday, and none of these guys believed the Federal Reserve. Nobody believed them. Everybody said that once you start to do this, that you get stuck down a path and you never come out of it. And Japan did this, and they're still not out of it. And there wasn't really a whole lot. I didn't really see a whole lot of people trying to take the position that, it'll just be a one-time thing and then it's going to go away. Almost everybody was predicting that it was going to continue to be a thing. But here again is the issue is, like, what would be the metric that you would look at that would say that we're getting inflation, that that it was there, and can you show that there is some correlation between that metric and gold rising? And over the past 10 years, it just doesn't exist.
Sunday driver says enough believed. The Fed and the US government has no discipline. There will never be another Paul Volcker.
The whole thing with Paul Volcker was a different issue, but yeah. So I don't know. Again, gold on the short term can move up a lot, especially as the money is just pouring out. But at some point, we're probably going to move into a lower growth environment if we don't just have another collapse, which short term is a concern. Like, I'm really concerned about what might happen this fall. Okay. But beyond that, say we get to next year, and things haven't completely fallen apart by next year, then I think that the case for gold starts to very quickly fall apart if you don't see inflation. At that point, how long do you think that the gold bugs are going to sit there in gold and continue to buy it?
Numerous studies that MMT is an accurate description of economics. It's like being a climate denier. These gold bugs are crazy. Hi, by the way.
Well, I don't believe
MMT
says
inflation
either,
is measured today in two ways: price increases (CPI), and
Well,
they've
that's
gained that by
not-
removing things that go up from the CPI, and money supply, which is increasing by leaps and bounds.
Nah. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at inflation, right? So let's come over here and look at it, and I'll show you how to look at it, right? I can show. Will it show me this month? Apply settings. And then I want to come over here, and I only want to look at measures of inflation. Okay. So there is PPI and CPI, which is the ones. Oh, you got to zoom. Well, I'll keep talking. You can go back and watch it later, right? PPI and CPI are the two that we most commonly think of, right? Now, CPI is the one that like we always pay attention to, but I've actually found in many instances the PPI ending up moving more, or like whichever one is being done second. So, it just kind of depends on the situation, what the market is concerned about. By the way, we are seeing the bids stack now behind us, which is good. Okay, so that's one thing. But then there's also a really big component, and I think the thing that really, really matters is things um, like down here, non-farm productivity, unit labor costs, average hourly earnings. Average hourly earnings is a really big deal, right? Because that shows that inflation is resulting in people getting paid more. This is the one where you really start to say, where is the inflation? Because people aren't getting paid more. If people aren't getting paid more, then you just don't have the impetus to really see prices across the board rise in a meaningful way. Um, and then this GDP price index, this is another important metric. And then the PCE. So this one right here, the PCE price index, from my understanding, is a number that the Federal Reserve actually cares about more. And what is that? Differs from core CPI in that it only measures goods and services targeted towards and consumed by individuals. Okay. So kind of what you're talking about, it's actually even other things removed, but that's the thing that the Federal Reserve really, really cares about. Right. Now, there's a lot of things that one of the bigger arguments that I've heard is, especially from Republicans, is, we are seeing inflation. We're just not seeing it in the consumer space. And so what you're seeing is pumping up in the markets that certain commodities like oil and gold are, we'll see rises. And in the QE era, that is definitely what we would see. It was like they would just pick a commodity that day and they would just buy it all day and it would trend up all day. And people would use the carry trade to just push it as far as they could. This is definitely a thing. Okay. But overall, can we come back and say, was there a measure of inflation that continued to go up that held gold prices in the last 10 years? It never happened, right? Because the gold bugs could never find something to point to it and say, look, see, here's the inflation. There was never the dynamics that forced the people that didn't want to buy gold to have to go in and invest in it. It never happened. So that's my argument. Whereas over the past 10 years, deflation has been a consistent concern. And it's kind of funny, even after all of this, it doesn't seem like the Federal Reserve completely really believes this theory yet. But there is the theory has been proposed that all of this monetary easing actually creates deflation, that it forces people that were investing before. They have to put more money into their investments because they're not getting as much yield. And so that means that there is less money actually being thrown around in the consumer economy. More of it is going to investment, and that results in less inflation, right? Think about all of these guys in Japan. Like Japan is just always the best example to go to because they've been doing it the longest, right? All of the pension funds over in Japan having to come over here because they can't find yield, right?
I2 Yanth Great says the Fed uses MMT economists, don't they?
Not really. I mean, the thing about MMT is I think that we confuse what MMT is a little bit, okay? MMT is kind of using certain assumptions that are completely unproven, in my opinion, to say that the Federal Reserve can print as much money as they want and that they can fuel as much government spending as they want, and there will never be any consequences. That is not what the current Federal Reserve believes. Current Federal Reserve I think would tell you that if you turn around and increase the national debt times 4, that at some point you will start to see some inflation. Okay. But the current Federal Reserve will also tell you that there are deflationary pressures out there and that you have to fight those deflationary pressures and, try and still hit that 2% inflation target. MMT people would tell you that the inflation target is nonsense. That they're going to say you can print as much and it will never impact the inflation target. So it's a little different. There's not really anybody in banking in the United States. There's not really any serious guys in banking, and that includes the Federal Reserve, because you got to remember, like, the banks own the Federal Reserve essentially, right? It is a private entity. And none of these guys believe in MMT, right? The concern is that a Democrat will come in and will start putting MMT people on the board. I'm not so sure that will be allowed, but
I2 Yanth Great says they say inflation can be an issue, but it's just overblown basically. Hard to type an argument, so I'll stop, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that they seem to believe that inflation is caused by other things, right? I don't know. I think a lot of the MMT arguments, like the thing that just bothers me so much when I go and I read a lot of MMT arguments that I've read, like from that lady that, oh, my voice, the lady that Bernie Sanders hired that they were so big on, right? I'll read her arguments, and like every sentence I will see something that, you know what, I've been watching markets and that is the exact opposite of what the correlation is. You know what I mean? I see that a lot. It's like somebody that spent their entire life in school and has never actually watched the real market. Instagram releases TikTok competitor Reels in the US. Is that a separate application? Reels. The ultimate guide to Instagram Reels. Oh, that was 2 days ago. This isn't new news, apparently. So it's a new area in the Instagram app.
I2 Yanth Great says yeah, I was thinking of her. Maybe I'm wrong. I2 Yanth Great says but with E.
Okay, so this guy in Discord is responding back to me. Because I told him volatility is not necessarily what you want, but as a speculator and trader, isn't volatility in large contract size relative to fees what we want? Otherwise, the fees represent a large portion of your outcome. Ooh, look at them stack at 0.4 So they are definitely playing with the book here, aren't they? They were giving me 4 ticks at one point. I don't think that I really got enough volume to be filled, and it's also not quite to where I think that they could go. So we can see there's a VWAP up here at 07. And the E-mini is pointed down, but they're not really moving. I don't know if they're really going to move until the equity's open. So we might kind of have to just sit here in this and see what happens. And certainly probably move that up, but actually let's just put a 1 down. So do I just have to open up Instagram and I'll get reels? Because stories in Instagram were stupid. Stories in Instagram were dumb. I don't got anything in there. Maybe if I come over to Play Store, there's like a update. Oh, okay. So it says that my Instagram was updated 5 hours ago. Ah, it's hidden in the application. I don't know if this is really a. I don't know if I actually have the update either. Okay, so some of the big liquidity disappeared. And we're still not pushing 05. It looks pretty set, you know? Zoom these out here. Hmm. So the 5-year tick down there. Yeah. So the 10-year falls down to only 868. I don't think that my version of Instagram has it yet, because when I come in here to Instagram and I try and create something, I do like a photo. It's not. It's different. And we lose 042 with only 1407. Well, a decent amount got picked up at 045 and 05, right? So I guess we just kind of have to see. I wonder if it's just not on Android yet. Oh my gosh, really? Only 765? Really hate it when they do that, but they could just be messing with us. I don't know. Can be really frustrating when it just moves on no liquidity, right? Are we seeing some currency moves? Is that what's causing it? Well, the 6J is falling here. Unclear if that's going to continue, though. White House strikes $1 billion deal with Johnson & Johnson for 100 million coronavirus 19 vaccine doses. Okay. Mm, okay. That's odd. So now I'm starting to see some liquidity stack up at 04 half and 05. Which would be kind of weird unless they were planning on it coming back up there or something. Hmm. Okay. They are picking up a few contracts there, but they're being super sneaky about it. Okay. Okay. Neil Kashkari's suggestion of a hard lockdown with all the requisite support we need to survive such an indefinite is crucial. We keep looking for an easy out, the magical solution, the Deus Ex Machina. No, this is silly. Man, I so seriously disagree with him. If we had another lockdown, the economy would be decimated. And you want to say that we're all looking for an easy out? The lockdown is an easy out. You think that you can just lock everything down and then the virus will disappear and it'll all be over. But go and look at what's happening in Australia. That might be a key clue here because in Australia they just locked down and now they're having an outbreak again. All that the shutdown does is delay the inevitable. There is no easy out. What is the thing that we're avoiding that you have to go through? You're gonna catch it. We're gonna catch it, and yeah, there's gonna be damage, and people are gonna die, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. The crush the curve doesn't work. Europe crushed the curve. They're starting to see an outbreak. Australia crushed the curve. They're starting to see an outbreak. Many U.S. states that crushed the curve are starting to see outbreaks.
Ask Our Money Machine says lockdown is good think is to prepare for big wave of COVID time works against corona people can make better treatment.
I think you made a bunch of spelling mistakes in there, and I'm having a hard time reading what you said. Ascar. Lockdown is a good thing is to prepare for a big wave of COVID. Time works against corona. People can make a better treatment. Well, yeah. So the whole thing is to delay it, right? Yeah. I think that's what you're trying to say is you want to delay the coronavirus until there's a vaccine. But the problem is that you're not really going to see that distributed at the earliest Q1 next year. And in the meantime, you're going to have 3 months of winter that are just going to be brutal. Because again, Australia just came out of a lockdown, right? And now, only a few days after going into lockdown, they're having an outbreak. It's only a few hundred cases, okay, but they're having an outbreak in Melbourne, right? Now, it's really early to say, okay, but the preliminary results suggest that in the winter, the lockdown doesn't really do a whole lot. That's kind of the problem. So then when you lock down, you're not delaying the virus, and all you're doing is causing unnecessary economic harm. I'd say in the spring, it definitely, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I can't really think of a place that was having an outbreak and then they clamped down and it perverted. Like when you look at New York, maybe I'm wrong here. When I think about New York, I think, oh, like it completely went through New York. But maybe it's the case that still a large portion of the people there haven't caught it and that they are at risk of a second wave in New York. And can you imagine the impacts of that, right? If we get into the winter, we get into November, October, November, and there's another huge wave in New York, that would be devastating, right? And then you really have to question how effective extended lockdowns are. Or at least at this point. I don't think that would necessarily mean that the lockdown in the spring was useless, but kind of makes you wonder if shutting it
Ask
down
Our
again
Money
in the
Machine
winter would
says,
help.
sorry man, lockdown is good thing. To prepare for big wave of COVID time works against corona, people can make better treatment. Ask Our Money Machine says, I am not saying about vaccine only, there is other treatment. I know how dangerous it is, so many people died in my city. People just die in 2 to 3 days.
Well, a lot of older people will die. But I'm just saying there's some real questions about how much you can actually prevent the spread in winter. So really it's winter specifically that I'm concerned about, right? Because Australia is really the first place that we have seen where it's like true winter with an outbreak. Maybe
Uzi
China might
Knesset says people die all the time. Only now have people truly become aware of it.
True, that's true.
Sunday Driver says whenever they open up just a little bit, the disease runs wild again.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it. Herd immunity is the only hope.
Ask Our Money Machine says, man, I know there's full families died, even young people 20 to 22 years.
Yeah, I would, I'd like a lot more because, every number that I've looked at has been saying that the number of people that die at 20 to 22 years is like, 1 in 200 people. So that means you might know a few people because there's going to be at least one person in your community. So remember, like the average human can know 200 people or something. So that means that you're probably going to know at least one person that died, depending on what kind of a community you're in and how much health complications they have, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that it, statistically speaking, that it's justified to. I mean, again, here's the thing. Think about where we're at right now, where the economy is, the amount of stimulus that we had to print. We are looking at printing another $1 to $3 trillion to inoculate ourselves against the delayed effects. Okay. So there's going to be here in a couple of months, there's going to be a whole wave of other issues that come about from the coronavirus. And that's kind of why they want more stimulus, right? Then we have more lockdowns in the United States. New York locks down. Or we do what the people on Twitter here are trying to argue, and we have a nationwide lockdown for 6 months. You would never recover. It would never recover. And then what would happen? 6 months goes by, you open back up, people start catching it again. And the argument that I'm just making is that I don't see evidence that crushing the curve works. Right? What was flattening the curve? Flattening the curve was a good idea to prevent your hospitals from getting overwhelmed, but crushing the curve doesn't seem to work. It just delays it. And I don't think that you can delay it long enough for the treatments to end up making a difference. Certainly it's not happening in Australia. If the alarmists are to be believed. alarmists like myself and Zero Hedge that are concerned about the recent outbreak of new cases in Melbourne, Australia. But let's give it a week or two, huh? But that's the whole thing. Like 2 weeks from now, our views on a lot of things are probably going to change, right? The first kids are going back to school. So give that one a 14-day incubation period and enough time for it to really spread and show stuff, So let's say like 4 weeks from now. And then we kind of know how it goes for reopening the schools in the United States. That's going to change people's opinions a lot. By that point, you're going to see where things are in Australia, and that's going to change people's opinions a lot. At that point, you'll probably have a good idea of how bad things are in Germany and France, and that's going to change people's opinions a lot, right? It may be the case, and it really is starting to look like it, that you're going to have this situation where the United States is largely over the worst of it, and all of these other countries are still experiencing it. And because these other countries locked down for such a long time and then still experienced it, it's the end result is going to be, the end conclusion is going to be that they harmed their economies unnecessarily. Get what I'm saying? But there's a lot of ifs in there, right? I think, though, that if we were going to talk about the risk, I think that the risk skews in favor of the United States right now. Which is also why I keep saying, keep an eye on the dollar. It's getting pummeled right now, but the time may come when that flips. And if it flips, it will flip very, very hard and be very, very painful for many people. Oh, we have the PMIs coming here in 10 minutes. Forgot about that. Non-manufacturing services composite. We did come back up nicely. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? We had that push back down to our entry on almost no volume. But as it's moved back up, it's done so pretty nicely. And it does very much seem to me that move was currency driven.
Vincenzo C. says I agree with Seth's assessment of the virus behavior.
Well, there you go. I think that it's important for me to know that there's a lot of speculation involved in what I just said, right? And this is one of the problems that I think that everybody has fallen into at one point or another within this whole pandemic, is making conclusions off of early data, right? We should be really careful about making conclusions from early data. So let's give it a few weeks and see what happens. At the moment, it doesn't look like the new cases is like a significant issue to the markets. So we can just kind of sit back and see what happens.
Vincenzo C. says yes, until further information becomes available.
Yes, Republicans have cut off aid to unemployed just as recovery starts. Oh, yes, Paul. It's totally the Republicans' fault, even though they offered up 4 bills, one that was literally just the clean, we'll extend it for a week and nothing else, and the Democrats voted it down, but it's the Republicans' fault. What a hack. He is such a hack. I love arguing with that guy because he's such a hack. It just, and you know what? The worst thing is his followers are like completely out of their minds. They never understand if you argue with them, they never understand what you're talking about. So he has a column about it, huh? Oh. Hiring slowed in July. And now he's saying that, we cut off aid to the unemployed just as the recovery stalls. Well, I think with the argument the Republicans have been making, I mean, we're arguing about this in the Equity Index's channel of Discord, actually, right? Republicans are saying that the reason it is stalled is because people don't want to go back to work. Gamma Trader has a really good point here. Saying that we're going up 100 points on the S&P 500 a week. And a few years ago, it would take at least a month to nab 100 points on a strong uptrend. It's so true. The up moves have been, in my opinion, a little crazy and silly. Oh, so I said, I think that a week of not getting your check would maybe light a fire under a lot of people, but many people dispute that thesis. And Gamma Trader says that's because you want to make money. A lot of people rather just want to get money. A person who's trading is trying to make money instead of just getting money. Okay. He's right. I want to make money. It's so true. Won't deny it. I feel like my camera is a little dark today. I'm thinking about changing that. I will wait a little bit. Let's wait until after the PMI knows to mess with the camera, shall we? Actually, wait, no, we got... Okay, well, the E-mini just started a little bit of an uptrend. I don't know if it's significant. It didn't really affect the treasuries. So let's do it. Let's try and change the aperture on the camera. Well, that's maybe almost too bright. But we can turn down... this back to like more like 15. There. How do you think that looks? I think that looks a little better. It is going to be a little bit... It is going to be a little bit more blurred in the movement, but I think we're okay. My other option is to just turn my lights up a lot. Let's try that. No, that's not bad. Let's try that for a while. Kind of like it, because it feels a little more sunny in here. It feels a little more bright. Yeah, I'm liking it. Oh, you know what else? Ah, that's better. I didn't turn on one of my lights. Does this light up all the way? Cool. Fed Vice Chair Clarida says economy could reach pre-pandemic levels by the end of 2021. While U.S. economic growth slowed in July, it could pick up in the third quarter and reach pre-pandemic levels by the end of next year. Yes, assuming that there's not like a huge mess overseas and the market freaks out. New York cases rise 0.2%. That is in line with the 7-day average of 0.2%. Tweets Forex Live. Okay. So a little bit of another uptrend there in the E-mini. I'm still a little skeptical about how much up move they can really have in them. These PMIs are going to have to be really good to keep this up. Piper Sandler says Tesla, or Beyond Meat, the Tesla of packaged food. That's good stuff. Okay, here we go. We got less than 45 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm getting 50 spot 0. Versus the estimated 50 spot 0. So the number looks like it is perfectly in line. Jigsaw's numbers are slow again. Okay, so services PMI was 50 versus an expected 49 spot 6. Okay, so the 10-year made an attempt there to take 05, and they didn't get very far, and now they're testing 04 half again. I'm seeing the 6J continue to extend up. The dollar does look weak. Should note that. So I'm seeing more stories about reels, but I don't get it. It's not in my version of Instagram. How do I get it? I want it. I want to be on there. I want to make stories and stuff.
Sunday Driver says dollar is weak is an understatement. Sub 90 US dollar is definitely in the cards over the coming weeks.
They're below 93. So they're breaking some pretty significant levels, aren't they? Okay, well, so something I've been saying in the Discord here is that the overnight action was incredibly bullish, and the trend up was extremely strong. They were basically washing out all of the shorts. The market looked, if you count all of the guys in from the overnight session, the market looks very, very long. Okay. From the regular session, there hasn't been a whole lot of trade so far yet, right? We've traded a very small range. So now they're kind of coming back to the open and testing it. I'm seeing the possibility of a short here. It's not enough where I think that I could just take it on the positioning in the E-mini, but to hold on to my 10-year trade, I think so. So I'm searching, how do I get reels? And it said, try searching on Instagram. And it's just a bunch of people complaining about it. That's not what I wanted either. Let's see here. Carl Quintilla. I'm glad I added him. He says, Politico on how governors are making more key decisions that shape our shared future. I didn't run for governor thinking I was going to spend every day now for 6 months focused on the most basic thing of all, which is keeping people alive. Wonder who that was. Gentle reminder from the market year as VIX trades at lowest levels since the corona crisis. And the E-mini breaks the highs. That was a pretty meh break of highs. But maybe there's more in that. More from Clarita. The coronavirus hasn't inflicted long-term damage to the U.S. economy, Mr. Clarita said, but the risk will grow the longer the pandemic lasts. Man, I don't know. How do you take on... How much is it now? Like $4 trillion of debt, and that doesn't have long-term damage on the U.S. economy? Not sure I'm on with that one. Oh, I want to buy all the Bitcoins, David Portnoy tells the Winklevoss twins in crypto interview challenge. I bet you that he's already long Bitcoin. Look at that. Yeah, a big move up in Bitcoin today. Well. Over the whole night. I wish I had seen that when I came in today. We could have been talking about that a little bit earlier. Yeah. Well, it is a good long trend, but it's not past like levels that are like really, really important. You know what I mean? I think I need to add more than let's see here. Oh my gosh, my baby is like really upset. I can hear him over the baby monitor because my wife left the baby monitor in the kitchen and it's on, so I can hear him screaming. He's very unhappy. Let's change this volume to be like 500 so that we can see back when they moved. Yeah, there you go. That's a little better. Now you can really see the trend. It's trendy. I'm sure that he is already long. It's kind of so. Yeah, I will say it. I wouldn't be surprised if a few years from now, or maybe a year from now, or whatever, that we're getting news about David Portnoy being
Sunday Driver
investigated
says I
for
can't
pumping
believe
dope.
it, but Bitcoin is actually behaving like an inflation hedge or global risk hedge.
Yeah, it has over the past like what since July 22nd, so like 2-3 weeks. But it's only acting like that because the people are coming in and making the trade. The thing is apparently it doesn't take a whole lot to move Bitcoin anymore. So I see a really big headwind for Bitcoin though, because the amount that people are paying for a Bitcoin compared to the amount that is actually transacted around the Bitcoin network on a daily basis is really, really high. Like you're really spending a lot to use Bitcoin. And how did it get up there? And when you look at it, it's almost always preceded by big prints from Tether. Okay. So where is this money actually coming? Is it really actually backed? Because there's this question about how much of Tether is actually backed, right? And they're being investigated by the New York DA. But regardless of that, the move is being driven by these people. Let's just assume that it is legit. It's being driven by people buying into Bitcoin with Tether. Okay, the amount of the market cap for Bitcoin that comes from that one location, it has become such a large component of the price. It's dangerous. If something happened and the New York Attorney General started to what is the word? What is the special word for saying that they're winning?
Sunday Driver says it makes sense that moves in the crypto space would drive through a stable coin of some kind.
No. I mean, why? Why wouldn't you just buy it with dollars? Here's the question for you, Sunday. If you wanted to get into cryptocurrency, why would you go and buy Tether and then go and trade it into Bitcoins? Why wouldn't you just go and buy a bunch of Bitcoin on Coinbase? Why not? What do you think the reason is? I'm interested. Alternate theories for this, because I have a theory. My theory is that all of that money really shouldn't be in there, and that if they were doing it through U.S.
Sunday Driver says because tons of the dollar that trades in crypto space doesn't source from US dollars.
Well, but why would you use Tether? If you wanted to get into the market, why would you enter the market through Tether? Right? Like they're saying, okay, David, you want to buy Bitcoin. How do you tell them how to do it? Go and transfer $1 million over to Coinbase and then start buying Bitcoin. Right? Or go and give $1 million to Tether and then use Tether on these other exchanges to start buying Bitcoin. Why do you use Tether? You use Tether because then you can trade on unregulated exchanges that are not legal in the United States. Right? Why would you want to trade on an unregulated exchange? You see what I'm saying? Why would you want to do that unless you were doing something kind of scummy?
Sunday Driver says because they trade from a speculative purchase, take profits, and go into Tether. Why go into US dollars when it prints a transaction that the IRS can tax?
So you want to do something shady. You want to avoid taxes. The money that you're using was ill-gotten. You're laundering
Dan H
money.
says, well, I was on Coinbase and the account was cleaned out.
Wow,
I
really?
even had two-factor.
Okay, so here's the number. 58.1 for the what was that one? The services index was 58.1 versus the 55 estimate. Okay. So the market's buying that one up. That would justify the high price.
Sunday Driver says I'm not saying that I do that. But most people who trade in crypto don't want or believe the government should have any business in their transactions. It doesn't necessarily mean it's shady.
But it is shady if you're trying to avoid taxes. Like, frankly, if you're a US customer, you're not even supposed to be trading on those other exchanges, right? If David Portnoy gets into the cryptocurrency market in a way other than using Coinbase or what's the other one? Gemini or whatever it is. Okay, those are the only two legal ways for you in the United States to get into Bitcoin. Right? Just saying. You think that that's how all these other guys are in Bitcoin? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, but I'm just asking, so it's such a large percentage. Why?
RJ Wheels says it's like kneeling down to the anthem.
Why such a large percentage? It's such a large percentage of the market now. And I say, when you look at the valuation and everything else like that, that it makes perfect sense that it's not real money. That they're just printing stuff and they're creating debt and they're not actually backed by real dollars. And if that's true, then
Sunday Driver says you're wondering why things are happening. I'm explaining. There are many other ways to get into Bitcoin than those two. You can buy it through the Cash app.
You can buy it through the Cash app. Which one are you talking about? I think I kind of know what you're talking about because there are some applications on your phone where you can just, give them dollars and they'll give you Bitcoin. I forget what the website was, though. Cash.to or something like that. It's been a while. But my argument is just too much of it is coming from Tether. And given that Tether is under investigation from the New York Attorney General, the amount of the Bitcoin market cap that is
Sunday Driver
directly
says the one
responsible.
literally called the Cash App.
Okay. The amount that is directly that Tether, the amount of market cap that Tether is directly responsible for should be extremely concerning to you, considering that Tether is under investigation from the New York Attorney General, refuses to release a true audit, and is doing everything that they can to prevent the government from seeing this information. Okay? If the New York Attorney General comes out and finds something, Bitcoin is fucked. You will lose almost 95% of its value instantly. Highly dangerous situation in Bitcoin. And that's not just going into just from a valuation perspective right now. They're close to a bubble level crash. You kind of have to wonder, is there like a true cryptocurrency mania out there right now? Not really. Maybe there will be by
Sunday
December.
Driver says Tether isn't under the NYAG's jurisdiction.
It is, and the court has already ruled that it is. Tether lost. That was like 2 weeks ago. Tether lost that one. They have to. I mean, maybe they'll do another appeal. I don't know what other kind of what is the word? I don't know what other kind of legal maneuvers they might have up their sleeves to try and delay things further, but they lost that argument. The court ruled that they are under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction. Well, there it is. Never quite got it. I think that the bullishness in equities just a little bit too much for my trade in the Treasury to work out.
Sunday Driver says the court is wrong. This is imperial overstretch. It's not even in the US.
It's not wrong. These people were trading on US exchanges. They're 100% right. It's not imperial overreach at all. It's US law. You give money to a prop trading firm in New York, and then they go and they trade it here in the United States. You are under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction. There's no question about it, Sunday. I'm sorry. You couldn't be more wrong. I don't think you understand the U.S. law, or your own biases are clouding your own judgment, but you couldn't be more wrong.
Johan Persson says, can you set up the Jigsaw DOM so you have 2 volume profiles, one for current day and one for yesterday?
You know, Johan, that would be an interesting thing to do, but there's nothing like that. Nope. Actually, what is the word? The settings that you have for the volume profile in Jigsaw is pretty limited. You can basically just I suppose that one thing that you could do is you could go in and you could set up a template so that you have a session that covers multiple days, and then open up multiple DOMs with those different sessions, and then maybe you could get it that way. But otherwise, there's not really a good way to do it. And if that was the case, I think that you would be better off looking over at, NinjaTrader in your charts and setting up a volume, like this. Like this. This is what I use to see the previous day's profile. So that's probably the best way to do it. And at some point, Jigsaw is going to have volume profile charts. They have charts. I'm not super enthralled by them right now because they just don't replace my NinjaTrader charts at all. But at some point, they will have volume profile charts, and then you could do it that way.
Sunday Driver says money flow doesn't give jurisdiction. Otherwise, the entire globe is under the NYAG's jurisdiction.
Only if they trade in New York. Okay. So if you are in New York and you're trading, then you're under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction. If you trade on an exchange that's based in New York, then you're under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction. If you loan money to people that are then trading in a New York exchange, then you're under their jurisdiction. That's what Tether did. You can't give margin to somebody to trade in a New York exchange and then not be under their jurisdiction. That's silly. That would just be the amount of fraud that you could carry out in that case would just be unreal. Just anybody would just have to say, "Oh, I'm not actually under your jurisdiction." It wouldn't matter where you're from or what you're doing. Right? Like it almost kind of makes you wonder what is it that you think would put somebody under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction? Because what have they not done? They did all of it. They loaned money to people. They traded on the exchange. They had these prop firms that traded on the exchange. Like, sure it is. But no, that's exactly what the law is.
Sunday Driver says anyone can trade anything anywhere. If my internet data packets flow through a New York server, then I'm under their jurisdiction. Makes no sense. This is imperial overstretch.
If your internet data packets flow through a New York exchange, you're under the New York Attorney General's jurisdiction, yes. But here's the bigger question. Here's the bigger question for you, Sunday. Who cares? Why would you care? Unless you thought that Tether was doing something illegal and that they're going to get punished for it. Well, how far can the E-mini go off of this PMI number? It was a 58. It was 58 is pretty good. Chicago public schools staying closed due to worsening coronavirus 19 conditions. The mayor said the decision to keep kids home had little to do with the Chicago Teachers Union increasing pressure and threats to strike.
Johan Persson says I'm demoing a crappy platform called Volfix, but they have a good DOM. Yesterday's volume profile in DOM is actually really useful. You see where you are compared to yesterday directly on the DOM. Vincenzo C. says I didn't see it before. Seth convinced me on this jurisdiction question.
Yeah, well, I mean, for practical trading purposes, let's just leave it at that. The U.S. court has ruled on this, and that it's happening at some point. Who knows how much they can delay it? Right. So if you do not believe that they have jurisdiction over it, what would they have had to have done for the U.S. to have jurisdiction? That question makes sense. What is the thing that they would have had to have done, but that they didn't do, that would have given, in your opinion, the U.S. jurisdiction? Because it sounds to me like you don't want the U.S. to have jurisdiction because it's not favorable to you. That's not the way it works. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, let's go and see what Bitfinex has said anything lately.
Sunday Driver says it isn't Tether. It's actors that use Tether. They are not located in the USA.
Wrong. So Tether gave margin to traders based in the U.S. in New York, to be exact. They said, we will give you a loan. We will print X thousand Twitter, or my gosh. They said we'll give you X many million Tether on a loan, and then to you, a company, in New York, and then they went and they traded that, made their money, supposedly paid it back. Is my understanding.
Sunday Driver says that means US Ag would have jurisdiction over those individuals.
Wrong,
Tether?
because if you loan money to individuals in the US, then you are under US financial laws. Think about the way things would be if that wasn't the case. You could launder any money simply by laundering the money through a foreign entity, and the United States wouldn't be able to do anything about it. If you loan money to people in the US, you're subject to US financial laws. His pinned tweet is from a really long time ago. My oh my. Okay, so this is where it gets, like, just to give you an idea of how big of a problem this potentially is, all right? It has been over 2 years since Tether issued their quote unquote audit, which wasn't really an audit. Since then, the number of UST tokens has increased 300% to $10 billion. And then he says, I'm not saying it's a scam, but geez, it would be nice to have some actual transparency like they claim, right? It is a little, don't you think that it's a little crazy that these guys supposedly have $10 billion in assets sitting somewhere, and they won't show you an audit showing you that they have a secure chain of custody over that $10 billion and that it actually exists in cash somewhere? Whew. Like, think about that. $10 billion, man? Can't prove that any of it is real? Well, we know that at a certain point that 40% of it was real, right? That's the other thing that's really crazy about this, is that we know that at a certain point in history, it was not all bad. That is really, really scary. And then you have this move up to 10K, driven largely by Tether printing. How much of it is real? There's no way to know. Based on past history, it's not. But we don't have direct proof that they're doing something wrong. That's what the Attorney General needs to subpoena their documents and get the information, and then we can conclusively prove whether they did something wrong or not. Conclusion: FFS is confident that Tether's unencumbered assets exceed the balance of fully backed USD Tethers in circuit. Oh, that was their audit where they didn't really prove anything. That's right. And what's Bitfinex's posting here? And this is some other issue that's unrelated to what we're talking about. Of course, hence the endless series of BARTs. They can even front run the pumps and dumps by going leverage long short ahead of them and texting all their buddies to do the same for extra profits. Tether completely cornered the crypto market. I mean that really, when you think about the amount of market cap that is directly related to Tether, in a way they did corner the crypto market. mm, mm, Okay, well, the E-mini is still struggling. Treasury's on their lows. See potential bounce, don't want to trade it. Going back to that first trade, I did get an MFU of 4. So I could have taken the 4 on that. But that's really hard. Here, where was it? Where was the max? I don't know. So one of the things that I'm noticing about this trying to trade this with the treasuries is that it has not necessarily given me good targets, especially good counter trend targets. It's like the counter trend, I'll get 3 and 4, and that's it. And it doesn't come back to any price, or I don't see anything significant happening when it happens. So I think we need to work on that. I don't think that these trades that I've been taking in treasuries are really ready for prime time. In the E-mini, when we have news, it totally works. Now, going forward in the E-mini, I'm not too enthusiastic about the long side, but that's the way that the trend has been. We are in the counter trend period, so we should wait and kind of see how that goes. They might flip around here. I've been yapping and arguing a lot, so I probably I sh- I'm getting they're talking about the distillate stock exchange. So I'm gonna get some water here. You can tell I'm just not myself today. Even though I thought that the original trade was not bad. I mean, it went 4 in my favor, it went 2 against me. I'm just not able to take the profit on it. So I'm not sure what I've got to do there, but we'll work on it. Probably, yeah. I don't know. It's a hard one. And especially since they're almost retracing, like, that entire up move from yesterday is a little, okay. Now, maybe the equity indexes fall apart here. I mean, they're definitely strongly bid, and that ISM number would definitely justify that. But now that that's over with, I'm a little weary about their ability to continue from here. So let's take a break and then take it from there, all right? Okay. What's Zero Hedge saying here? ISM new orders record high, but trade and inventory suddenly collapsing and employment refuses to rebound. Okay. So their earlier tweet was ISM services smashes expectations on record high new orders despite ongoing jobs slump. So what's happening is built up demand that was pushed back because of the lockdowns and everything is coming through, and that has resulted in a high ISM services number. But despite that, the services companies aren't hiring, essentially. Arlen Sunderman, the Centers for Disease Control, notes that 6% of deaths related to coronavirus note coronavirus as the only cause of death. The other 94% have an average of 2.6 other contributing conditions and causes. Those with other health issues are at greatest risk garnering our attention. I wonder, with volatility so low, if we have already entered into the muck, as it were. Or is it just a function of the summer? Is it the muck caused by low volatility, or is it the summer? What do you think? Oh, wow. Oh, this is an interesting piece of information. Not that any of you care about this, but today, Ninja Twitch stream reached close to 100,000 viewers so far, while the YouTube stream peaked at 167,000 at one point. Just as Ninja's YouTube stream a few weeks back, today's Twitch stream is all on his own and no deal has been made. Sources tell me both Ninja and Shroud are still negotiating between streaming platforms, with Twitch being the preferred choice, especially for Shroud. Streaming on YouTube is pretty good stuff, guys. You know what I would like to do is I would like to stream on Facebook. I'd like to stream on Facebook. And maybe even Instagram, TikTok. But in order for me to do that, I would have to do some extra stuff. I hear, though, that the streaming on YouTube is pretty good. Like, the number of viewers to streamers is really good. I don't know. Maybe I should look into that more detail today. I'm feeling this, like, need to do something. I don't know. Look at the tenure. The tenure has been sitting down here now for good. How many bars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 minutes. Finally, they ticked down to a new low. They really had to force that one. And what is driving this? Well, 3,000 contracts to trade it down 126.030 in the 5-year. Work for us Wednesday. School crossing guards needed. There. Dollar down, gold up. Well, gold has taken off now. Good. In the past 5 minutes, they've gone up a good $5 in gold. Liquidity is still pretty wimpy liquidity. You can't really trade that. But think about it, like that was, let's see here, 60. So that was from there to there. It was a pretty good move. Okay, so here comes the gas numbers. Not seeing any polling changing in our instruments, but there is certainly a little bit of ticking around. Okay, a little bit of trade coming across now in the E-mini. Somebody fighting it out there. Like right there at 33.18.15. Oh. Aha. Buyers pushing back now. You can see that the book is flipped. It was really just before they ticked down, the book flipped. So they kind of force them down. Oh, that's interesting. So Ninja did 2 streams. He streamed exclusively to Twitch and then exclusively to YouTube. And when he streamed to YouTube, he got more viewers. New York City faces retail nightmare with Manhattan struggling to recover. Streets are quiet with tourists at home and offices empty. Lawsuits and defaults are piling up as tenants miss rent. Yeah. Richard Branson soon faces a crunch vote on the plan to save his Virgin Atlantic airline. I pull a little pull there at 0.5, but didn't really pull a whole lot. And the 5-year didn't tick up. The 30-year is trying to run it, though. E-mini, we're still in the counter trend period and just kind of going sideways, but I'm seeing a lot of clicks.
Johan Persson says, is it possible to stream on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously?
Yeah, it is. There's a website called Restone. I'll just show you. Let's read this other comment.
PRT1 says Branson's work when you want program didn't work out so well.
Well, it'll be interesting if Bronson gets completely ruined by this crisis, isn't it? So you go to restream.io. You can come in here, and you can basically connect all of these services and stuff. So like, yeah, you can remove that. Remove that. I don't need DLive. Had Twitch, but I don't know. I didn't really like streaming to Twitch. I didn't really like the people that it attracted when I did that. So on Facebook, you can do it to a personal profile. But if you want to do it to a group or a public page, you have to upgrade. So then let's look at the plans. Man, it has gone up. One extra destination. What is the destination? Oh, maybe that just means that it gives you can stream to like 3 right now, 3 at a time right now, and it'll let you stream to 4 at a time. But it doesn't actually. I think that if you either of the paid ones gives you the ability to add groups and public pages, custom RMTP. I don't know what this is. Wowza and Akamai? Why would they make those ones? If we could do it to groups and public pages, then I would totally do it. I think I would totally do it. We could try just a test stream, just streaming to Facebook on its own. I have links in the video description, I believe. For like my Facebook page and stuff. Let me double check that. Yep. Speculator Seth on Facebook. So go and add me there. Maybe we'll do a special stream sometime. Well, it's interesting. The 5-year has been leading us down, but it is a really bender of a move. Actually, moving now to below yesterday's low in the 5-year. Not in the 10-year. Definitely not in the 30-year. But a real bender low. And I'm trying to buy it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like seeing 4K sitting on top of me now, right? Of course, if we tick back up, hey, maybe we actually have something. Depending on how much volume trades there. Okay, so the 5-year ticked up for a moment. Mm. Watch here. Reset this. How many contracts buyback? Well, a lot. Quite a bit. there at 33.1625. And it was in the 10-year to tick out 3,000 contracts. Another thing we should keep in mind. And there it's clicking again. It's doing it a lot. In the 10-year, the big orders are all offers, stacking and pulling. That's interesting. Tick back down. $24. And it looks like pressure again. And look at the bid pulling. In the E-mini, the bids versus the buys versus the sells is pretty equal. Stacking is definitely in favor of the buys, though. Look at all that stacking around 16. Yeah. They'll try and buy it back, but it looks like there's a little fight there. I see some imbalance in the treasury that could cause us to flip, but it kind of also looks like that there's a big seller that really wants to get filled at 140. He was really trying to draw them in there. And again, in the E-mini, stacking on the bid. Schumer's talking about the stimulus right now. Basically saying that they need to just keep slogging through on negotiations. That's a little odd. Some correlations not quite following the way that I would expect. The E-mini bumping up there. They're reading Schumer's comment as positive. I guess they must be reading it as positive because Schumer is saying that they're just going to keep negotiating. We cannot agree to an inadequate stimulus package. We are to keep slogging through on negotiations. I could see how some people could read that as important news, but I don't know if it is too important. But I'm also not too sure if that's why we just saw that little move up there or not. In all honesty, it may have just been that there was some shorts there. bailing. Hmm. Now, now look at how the book has changed in the E-mini now. Fear and greed index is 71 out of 100 according to CNN. Huh? The E-mini is ticking into highs, but not really taking off yet. Because again, it's one of those like, normally when you start hitting up there, they just go, but it's not. Yeah, you can see the 5 year still. So I kind of am detecting a bit of a push and pull here, right? They're pushing down the 5 year because they want these ones to come down, and they're not doing it. But look, the 30 year in particular is actually a little high. Are we getting some serious spreading going on here? Well, we are. Especially across the 5 and 30. No, that's the 5 and 10. 2s and 10s back up. 30 and 10 back up. But the 30 and 10 is trying to reverse it. You see that? A lot of volume there in the 5 year too. TikTok parent company ByteDance denied that a deal to sell the app to Microsoft will be reached in 3 weeks, as CNBC reported. Oh man, so this continues to go on for longer than 3 weeks? Ugh. Maybe we should all just use Instagram. I don't know, guys. Hmm. I think I need to change the filters on this. Let's change it to 100. It's just clicking too often now. 4K down there at the bottom in the 5-year. Uptick. Doesn't hold. Lots of shuffling around. Nope. So one of the things I'm noticing here in the E-mini is that because the range is so small, you might actually see some things in the chart that might look significant, but they're really not. Like they're really most of the day is just noise. There's been a slight uptrend, right? 3 points up, and that's like it. 5 points maybe. Maybe you call it 5 points. Let's say 5 points, right? Slight trend, but it's mostly noise. And I don't know. You kind of got to wonder. There just seems to be a lot of shorts out there. The market maker seems to be taking a lot of shorts. Like, of course, there's a lot of market buying, but the number of contracts that the shorts have taken in the E-mini seems to be a bit much to me. Like, just in that first hour, there was 18K at 33.18. And we're getting close to 10K at 33.19. I suppose that could just be a function of, the volatility is just so much less these days. This week. Still a lot of ticking. And look, 33.19, 25,000, 2,500. Down tick and large offer. Down tick again, the large offer pulls. Some big orders that were really far away from us in the 10-year that pulled too. Mm, 5-year upticks again. Hmm. Some bids. I'm noticing a lot of stuff happening and everything, but then like nothing really comes through. The treasuries still look pretty pressured to the downside. Yeah, this just doesn't look like positive action to me. I'm gonna leave these orders in here just because I want to see how the liquidity is reacting and stuff. How it really plays out. For instance, it's been sitting here at 140 for a really long time, right? Okay, so there was a little bit more extended of a sell in the E-mini. Could be the start of something. Do you see they got right to the buyer's line at 17, and then the buyers started to try and pick it back up again. So I see 17, and then the other side of that is more like 15, and then if we really want to go, then I could see it's kind of a hard call on this. I'm not quite sure why it looks so funky here, but maybe down to 3308, let's say.
PRT1 says should fill in 3,301 to 3,310.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, yeah. So I'm just seeing it as like, you get down here, your base. Well, so if we get to 08, that's basically all of the longs from the regular session. But then if we want to start washing out people from the overnight session, then it's down to 32.95. So could happen. But this I don't know. I get really wishy-washy in a situation like this, because to me it's like, I can see the imbalance and the situation, and it's like it's gonna happen. But then, like, look at how the volatility is today. Is awful. So in situations like that, it often just never happens, because even though the Kindle is there, nobody wants to come and light the fire because nobody wants to take that risk. I actually think so. Here in the Treasury, my take was that, okay, we had a pretty, it was bad fundamentals from the perspective of
JB says summer
refunding
trading.
report.
Wait until the big boys get back from the Hamptons.
Right. Yeah, totally. No, you're totally right. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing right now, right? That's why I continue to use my experimental accounts on these trades. And why I'm trading the Treasury because I thought that this refunding would be, an important news, and I saw them move down off of it, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I don't know if that's like a long-term thing, because again, we know that the Treasury is going to come and buy them. And yesterday, we were seeing lending conditions tighten and everything else like that. So we know that the Federal Reserve is likely going to have to do more stuff. But that doesn't seem to be of what is played out so far, has it? Now, maybe it's just the case that had played out, and the thing that matters more to them right now is equity indexes. And since equity indexes aren't giving anything back, it put the pressure on the bonds to move us down. I don't know. I think, though, that my understanding of the fundamentals over here in the Treasury is incomplete at best today. And then you add on top of that the really poor liquidity, and it's kind of like, But there's potential's still there. Potential's still there. Sellers are making some okay excursions down. The actual volume overall actually looks somewhat equal. There is quite a bit more stacking on the offers at the moment in the E-mini. It's actually quite surprising they're able to tick up like that. That's really fighting it, right? And that's where it kind of gets interesting to me, is that looks like, to me, two guys trying to push each other out of position. In a low volatility environment, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, right? But that's where I'm like, I've seen it before where that happens and both of them are just disappointed, right? Nothing happens. Yeah. Now that said, they are building a lot of volume at 33.19, and that is higher than before. And you can also see that when the buyers make their move for the highs, I mean, they get them, but it's just not a lot. Like, look at that. 2 ticks up, and then it's fighting against them. Like that. Now 2 ticks back down. That's not the way it's been lately. I mean, there's summer trading, and this is August trading, isn't it? This is August. I wouldn't recommend putting a lot of risk on the table in August. We're testing some things out. Oh, by the way, gold gave up all of those gains. They had that pretty good move from like 60
JB
to
says agree,
67.
I get extra careful at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Now we're back to 57 in gold. August really is the worst trading, guys. One of the big mistakes I find new traders make is they get really excited in August because, like I said, this kind of activity kind of makes you think that something's going to happen, right? They'll put a lot of risk on in August. They'll put a lot of risk on over the Christmas holidays, the really, really bad one. Oh man, so many people, oh yeah, I did really great last year. Okay, try it again this year. Eventually it's going to screw you over. Okay, 7K they finally beat out in the 5-year and they tick up again, but not a strong bid at 0.2 quarter. And the 10-year doesn't tick up. The 30-year, no activity. Well, there's a good number of orders that have hit into 26, but and a couple orders hitting back into 22, but it not going yet. So some contracts absorbing at 0.2 quarter. Now 1,000, and it ticks back down. There's the E-mini. It's trying to run again. That one kind of feels like news. It was just kind of like a rush of orders all at once. Well, I don't really see anything breaking the uptrend in the E-mini. Yeah, that probably was some guys getting stopped out there. But again, in this situation, that kind of a thing is have a tendency to, right? Okay, so another tick up in the treasuries. That time the 10-year went with it. And it didn't take a lot of contracts to make it tick up either. 668 versus 2327 back into it. 20,000 absentee ballots are being mailed by Connecticut town clerks 1 week before the state's primary. That seems like a really weird headline. CNN obviously wants to make a story of something but doesn't know how to sell it to us. Oh. They're in the process of being mailed or still need to be mailed by voters who had requested them to town clerks across the state. It's unclear who's at fault for the ballots not being mailed last week. Voters will now have less time to vote and mail their ballots back to be counted in time for the primary election. And this is the thing that really irks me. So, like, have you seen this? They'll give you an absentee ballot. And they'll give you an absentee ballot.
Ace Trades says, hey kids.
Hey, Ace. Yeah, I need to collect my thoughts here. They'll give you an absentee ballot, and then you're supposed to mail it in. If you don't mail it in time, then you're not going to get counted, right? So then, you decide to go down to the precinct. But if they've given you a mail-in ballot, you have to take your mail-in ballot to the precinct and give that to them. Otherwise, they're afraid that you're trying to vote twice. You had that happen to you? So it's almost kind of like discourages you from voting on election day, which really rubs me the wrong way. An uptick at 0.5 very quickly after finally they ticked into 0.10. I'm liking that. Meanwhile, E-minis at highs. Bit of a stop run. There's still a pretty good balanced area at 0.4.5. The 10-year balance at 0.4.5, and that's kind of where the seller's cost basis is. So that might be an area for us to look like if we're going to take a second contract off. Now that said, the E-mini is still at its high and trying its hardest to make it move up. Actually, no, I take that back. There are more market sell orders here. Since I reset it, at least. Wonder how accurate that is, though. There's been a lot of... When it starts ticking back and forth like that a lot, where the bid-ask is in relation to the orders changes a lot. And so you're a lot more likely for orders to get misclassified. This is where when you look at different data feeds and things like that, you'll get slightly different numbers. I think this is probably a case where you're likely to see that. Like right now, my cumulative delta from the extended session says 33,100 in the E-mini. So you can look at yours and compare. I bet you it's a little different. Tick pushing again. Not breaking it, but it's trying really hard. There we go. I'm so fidgety. Can you hear my chair? No, you can't really. You can't really hear. My leg is wobbling like crazy today. Spaloink says maybe a meteor will hit and the market can have another reason to go up. Maybe a thermonuclear war, that might be bullish.
Ace Trades says no. Good filter on the mic.
Yeah, well, it's
Sunday
the
Driver says everyone, be sure to smash the thumbs down button.
The upward filter on the microphone. Yeah, we haven't had wind coming in and telling everybody to click like, so I appreciate it. You guys have been doing really good with that, even without being prompted. Actually, I should look over here. What we got? 9 likes. Like, that's really good, guys. Thank you very much. By the way, if you haven't watched it, I made a video yesterday about the treasuries. Now, it's going to be an interesting video because
Ace Trades says, yeah, where has she been?
She just hasn't been online today. Yeah, I made this video that was like, hey, maybe the treasuries are telling us something, because yesterday was a really big move up. And now, like, we had a pretty big move down, and they retraced it. So we're going to have to see where it goes tomorrow and the next
Sunday
day,
Driver
right?
says only 2 down votes. I keep suggesting that, but people keep hitting the upvote. Lol.
I know. Well, why do you want so many downvotes? Do you think that the downvotes matter to us Sunday? I mean, I know it's a joke, but I just keep getting this feeling like do people think that downvotes
Sunday
matter?
Driver says they know
don't.
I'm kidding. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. It still counts as, it just means that you won't get recommended the content. Which means that when I post a really great video about Bitcoin later today, you won't get
Sunday Driver says votes no matter what drive views. Right.
As I understand it, it's all just engagement, and it increases the visibility of the video. That might not necessarily be the case for a really small video, but I don't know. I do think it's probably more likely to recommend my content that has the higher upvote ratio than it does the one that's mixed. So, I don't know. Tencent is in talks to merge China's biggest streaming platforms, Hoya and Douyu, in a deal that would value the companies at $10 billion, according to a new report. Ooh, $10 billion, guys. That's almost as much as how much Tether has been printed. And now you can see how easy it is to move them. I'm not going to directly accuse people of something without any evidence, but I tell you what, if I was a pump and dumper, right? If I had a bunch of people following me, I wanted to buy into something, then tell everybody, hey, go and buy this. And what would you do? Bitcoin. And here we got David Portnoy. I want to buy all the Bitcoins. You don't own any already? Give me a break. There's no way he doesn't already own some. He has to have already bought it. I refuse to believe, but you know what? I don't have any proof, so I should shut up. I don't have any proof. I don't have any proof, so I don't want to be like accusing people, but if something does happen, I want people to be like, oh yeah, Seth, he knew what was going on. You know what I mean? I want the credit, but I don't actually want to be on the hook for the risk. E-mini turning down a little bit. So again, good up move. They got like what, 2 handles? Days. 2 handles. Dog days. I should make a video about Bitcoin though. I haven't done it in a while. I feel like part of it is just because the indicator's been kind of boring, but it's still saying the same thing, and I think that it would be useful to a lot of new people, so maybe we should make it. But there's also this thing where like YouTube was like actively suppressing Bitcoin stuff. Is that still the case? Hey, you know what? Let's go look. YouTube. Let's search Bitcoin. Okay, so it shows me a new all-time. This is the thing that I hate about freaking YouTube, man. If I ever do this sort of shit, slap me in the face, okay? Just let me have it. I mean, don't hurt me, but slap me in the face, seriously. Bitcoin exploding to all-time highs in Turkey. Like, what? Who gives a crap about what it's doing in Turkey? Yeah, this is clickbait. This is scary. Man, it is so... if that's what gets you in to buy something, like, don't invest. Warning to holders, Bitcoin about to go parabolic. Programmer explains. Well, so now I'm thinking, what am I going to put in my video that will get the views, but isn't necessarily clickbaity, dishonest? Hype. I don't know. Because I feel like the story is Bitcoin setting up for possible pump and dump. That's what I think is happening. Per GOP source, Wisconsin Republicans are hoping Kanye West will receive as many votes as Libertarian Gary Johnson did in 2016, about 107,000. But didn't he drop out? Oh, well. Trump says he's considering executive order to reinstate enhanced unemployment benefits. Can he do that? That would be cool. Dude, if Donald Trump can just put in the enhanced unemployment benefits, that would really hit the Democrats hard, I think. Okay, I'll just do it. Oh, we don't need a bill now. I don't think it'd quite be like that, but all right. So the E-mini came down a little bit. They're trying to push again.
New page 3 girl in the background every day. Success will come your way.
New page 3 girl in the background there. This is the thing that just drives me crazy is whenever I sit down and I look at, all right, YouTube channel's doing pretty good, pretty happy with it. What can we do to get to the next level? So I start doing some research. Well, let's see what our competition is doing. Let's see what the keywords are and all of this other data. And then I go and I look at it. And what are the people that are successful doing? Oh, here's this big headline that it's like the end of the world, or like, you've got to get in now, guys. Like, it's going to happen and you're going to miss it. That's all they do. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, the reason retail traders lose is because they're all looking to follow somebody else into some, like, I've got to get in now sort of a thing. Whatever it is that excites you the most at the moment. And that's usually not the thing that you want to be investing in. So I don't want to do that. That doesn't mean that there's not things that we can do that can go better. I'm just not quite sure how I want to take it at the moment. Beyond what I've been doing. Except for maybe expanding the content a little bit. Like, I'm thinking about it. Hey, you know what? Made a video about the treasury yesterday. Let's make a video about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of popular. I have some information that I think a lot of people would appreciate. And they certainly appreciated it back in 2017 or whatever.
PRT1 says don't be the 90%.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, the biggest lie in retail trading, success in trading comes from following other people. It does not. Success in trading comes from other people following you. That doesn't mean that you have to be like an influencer, but hey, buy it before everybody else does. I bet you David Portnoy makes some money on Bitcoin. I bet he could make 50%. I bet you he could make 50%. But then it is way overbought. It is going to fall apart. Then it's like, hey, let's go buy some puts. Like, I should look into that. I might need to save up more money than I have available at the moment to make the trade that I would like to make. So I'm thinking 15,000 puts. If they get to 15,000, and that's where I, get above it a little bit. Let them, get above it and then have another little like crazy. And then buy puts above 15,000.
Johan Persson says start a video series, how to lose money in the market, with different, simple strategies that everybody can understand.
Right. Well, yesterday we were talking about, let's look at some popular strategies that we know don't work and kind of prove to people why they don't work. But one of the issues that I'm having is that the popular strategies are actually so vague they're not really strategies at the end. So like the really good example is price action here. So the price action, they say, okay, if there's support and they aren't able to get through the support, and then you get a strong down candle on the break of the support, then that's a good price action setup. Okay. How do you define the support? How do you define how big is a big candle? It's so vague that you can't actually get a really consistent setup. And the thing is that those things are going to be a huge determinant of how profitable the setup actually is. And so you could have a lot of people that trade that setup and
TRG1
actually
says
do make
start
money.
stream with $500 account and say if you can get to 5,000.
You get a lot of people that say, "Oh yeah, I've made money off of doing that," but it's luck because they just chose the right thresholds for the time, and then next year they're not going to make the right decisions and they lose it all. You know what I mean? Well, if we start a $500 account, the thing is if you look at a lot of these, I could come in, I could cherry pick spots where I don't know if I've had a run of 5,000, but if I sized up, I could. If I traded as much leverage as a lot of other people on YouTube too, I could. Oh yeah, easily. Let's just go in and use E-mini contracts. I'd be up 5,000 easy. Never use a stop. Could do it. Could probably get away with it for a really long time. I would need to backtest a little bit. I would want to get just the right mean reversion kind of a trade. Or I could just continue trading it the way that I am. I don't know. The thing is, the way that I've been trading in the E-minis have been working really well this month. This month, at least. This month, I'm up almost 1,000. I think over 1,000 now at this point. A lot of that came from some fairly big trades, but still, times that by 10. Say that I was trading with $500 because I certainly could. Yeah, could work. Could do that. I don't feel like it'd help people. You know what I mean? There's lots of people out there, streams that refuse to ever take a loss on something. You know what I mean? It actually really troubles me because this idea out there that just don't trade with a stop or whatever it is, is becoming more and more popular. I'm going to bring this down a little bit because things have moved a bit. But it seems like almost every other day now I end up in an argument with somebody that's trying to justify a really poor risk-reward ratio. And it's like, hey, you know what? High win rate, you'll get away with it for a really, really long time. But the way that one works is that when it falls apart very quickly.
Ace Trades says no you don't. JB says speaking of stops, what do you consider a wide stop on S?
That's a good question. I feel like, so I've been using 16 ticks.
JB says or a poor ratio.
Oh, so when I say a poor ratio, what I mean is your stop is further away than your target. So these are guys that are like, they're looking to make 4 ticks and they're risking 16 to do it. That's actually quite a common ratio. So I saw one the other day where they were trading the E-mini, and I think that they were making 8 ticks on it. But when they lost...
Ace Trades says, did you see what I did there? You said you get in arguments, and I argued with you. Lol.
Oh, I see. I was like, what is he saying no you don't to people, to me about? You say I get in arguments and you say no you don't. Oh, yes I do. Man. You know what? So I saw this video the other day from this girl. It got to me I got to admit, it got to me. And she was saying, she takes Adderall. And she was like, when I am not on the Adderall, I feel happy and spontaneous and life is good. But my performance at tasks is just abysmal and I can't handle it. So then I take the medication and my performance is amazing and I'm doing really, really well in life, but I feel like a zombie. And that, because I remember in school thinking, hey, you know what, Seth? That was bad for me in school. I didn't talk to people nearly as much as I should. And I think that I was much more of a people person than I realized. And I just wasn't doing it because of the medication, you know? And nowadays, it's like I'm a little bit more aware of it. So I can be social when I want to. But most of the time, I don't care. Most of the time, it's like I'll be on Facebook and I'll see somebody say something emotional, and immediately the logic tricks on in my mind, and it goes, "Well, yeah, but here's why that's bullcrap. Here's why that's wrong. Here's why you shouldn't think of it that way." This is exactly why all of the people FOMOing into everything bothers me so much. It probably wouldn't bother me so much if I wasn't on Adderall, right? Man, and I was like, but I said to her, I was like, "Well, you just kind of own it. Like you become the logical person." And that's kind of what I've done is I've kind of owned it, and there's things I like about it, and I derive a lot of entertainment from it. But then I realize, as I saying that, I was like, yeah, but really what I'm doing is I'm replacing the joy that I got from the spontaneity, and I'm replacing it with conflict, with drama, with arguing with people. Is that really healthy? Maybe not. Maybe not. But I don't want to become go back and become like everybody else where I'm just subject to the whims of whatever emotions are going on at the time. You know what I mean? So how do I find the balance? I don't know. I think that I can do it on medication. I think that I just need to be involved in other things, right? Not so much time arguing on Reddit, more time around people doing social things. But we're in a pandemic, so how do you do that, right? This is a problem in my life right now. I think that's a part of why when I'm home, well, not when I'm home, once I'm done with my workout, I've been holding the baby. And I don't really do a whole lot of anything productive with my time because I want to be in like that. Anyways.
Ace Trades says if you have a 12-point stop, it just means you went in the freaking wrong direction.
That's what I say. So no joke, Ace. There was this argument I had with somebody on Futures.io, and he was trying to justify it where his risk reward was literally 10-1. Like literally, he was looking to make one tick. It wasn't one tick. It was like 2 ticks, and he was risking 20 ticks. No joke. So his winners were like $100 and his losers were like $2,000. Now, he was showing a lot of times where he never had a loser. Good job, but guess what? It only takes a few of those 2,000 losers in a row to blow an account. And you'd be surprised. You'd think, okay, the chances of me getting 10 losers in a row is really, really unlikely. But you know what? If you've got the money, the market wants it. They find a way to make it happen, man. Ooh, I've seen crazy things. I've seen guys that for the longest time they were pulling that crap, and all of a sudden in one day, there's always a mistake. It was platform pooped out on me or something, but it always happens, man. And they're always the most egotistical people too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a little self-centered. You have to be a little self-centered to want to stream, right? But seriously, these guys, you'll never hear them say a humble thing. There's absolutely no acknowledgement that maybe there's some downsides to the strategy, that maybe all of these people warning you about it have a point. Never. Never, never, never. Because what's happened is the reason they take that trade is because they don't like losing, and because they never lose, they've built up a false sense of security because they don't realize that the way that the market works, it's quite likely that your blowout is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Sunday Driver says I do that sometimes. You write off the losers and let the winners run to the stars.
Smash
Well,
the Bid says the
that's
impossible
good.
price action strat is still holding strong, Seth. Argue with me, lol. Smash the Bid says. Ace Trades says that won't work.
Why
When
are
you
you
go the
calling
wrong
it?
direction, even if you were 50-50, you are going to dig a huge hole that you can't dig out of.
Well, these guys were pushing win rates of like 80%. The problem is that once your strategy gets below 80%, like say the market changes and you're only winning 60% of the time, maybe, well, that doesn't have to happen for very long before you blow the account, right? So, Smash, why are you calling it a price action? You were told me it was on volume now. Well, he's been doing pretty good though. How do you get such a high profit factor? Where's that coming from? Let's see here. So you're making 4. Why is it always the open average trade open profit, average trade open loss, maximum trade open loss, maximum trade open profit? So it's all in good. You had a 4-tick loser, but it looks like for the most part you're keeping it 4-tick winner, 2-tick loser. Doesn't tell you. Oh, okay. You're getting 83% though. But you're not getting 83. It doesn't look to me, at least, that you're getting 83% off of a wide stop. If it is a wide stop, then I would urge some caution. Oh, their average profit factor is 1.13. So it actually looks like your risk reward is actually, average winning trade, average losing trade. So your winning trade is bigger, but not by much. So it's really more like you're making 3.5 and you're losing 2.5. Max risk is 4-tick, stop is always between 3 and 4 ticks. Gotcha. Yeah, that seems to line up. See, if you're doing like equal risk reward, because it looks like most of the time when you make money, you're making 4, right? Equal risk reward and you're hitting above 70%. That's good. That seems like that's the way that I would recommend you go. Now, I don't know how you're doing it. And I always say if it's based purely off of technical data, I would always be really worried about it changing at some point. But so the question is really for you, Smash the Bid, is going to be at what point, what would it take for you to say it doesn't work anymore? Right? It's working right now. At what point, okay, had a week, 60% profitable. Does that concern me? You know what I mean? How low does it have to go before you start to say maybe something's changed? Now, if we knew more about the strategy, then maybe we would be able to say some things, right? Like we'd be able to say, okay, well, the reason that it works is because of X, Y, and Z. And then if we look at those things and we see that those things aren't happening, or that when X, Y, and Z happens, that the action is different, and then maybe we would know that it doesn't work anymore, right? A lot of people, they just randomly backtest something and find it, and then they don't really understand why it works. They don't really understand when it starts to fail. Which is why I keep saying I think one of the things that's important to a good strategy is having a reason to understand when it works and when it doesn't. I've certainly never been able to find a technical setup that was that had that high of a percentage win rate. That was purely technical. I have done that off of news the right market and you got the news and the technicals all in line, and then I can hit a really, really high win rate, right? Action like this today, it's just kind of ends up being a wash, doesn't it? Well, that comes back so fast, it makes me so mad. 6J. I mean, it doesn't make me mad, it's just I feel like there's a really huge component to the treasury action that I'm missing, because I see no reason for them to have just pulled back like what, 4 ticks? Yeah, it was 4 ticks on hardly any volume for no reason. Why? I don't know. Well, the E-mini is moving up again a bit. Maybe that's all there is to it. Is that the E-mini just decided to start buying again. If that's the case, why do they care so much? But I don't know. I don't think that the issue that I'm having with this one that I'm doing in the treasuries, it's been giving me good spots. It really has. I don't think I've had a single one where I didn't at least get a tick. But especially if I'm counter trend, it just doesn't. It's just not making it back to the line. So if I take a counter trend, I have no clue where to take it off. Even when I look at the book hasn't really been giving me many clues either. Okay. I just want to kill it. So that was okay. That did get us profitable on the day. I did size up to do it. I think in that situation, if I taken the second contract and then it hadn't have just immediately gone, I would have taken it. I should have taken it off at least. Let's say I would have, because we don't know for sure that I would have, but I would hope that I would have taken it off. Mass risk is word. Oh, sorry, you guys have been saying more and it hasn't been giving me this stuff. 90% have less than 5,000 another run. Are you talking about the size of their account? Oh, I don't know. Anyways, point is, Smash a Bit is using wise risk management, and it appears that there is some edge in his system. I don't know anything about what causes it. I still believe that if it's pure technicals, and the thing is that one of the problems that I think you'll get is that somebody thinks that what they're trading off is pure technicals, and really they're incorporating more market fundamental information than they realize. That's often the case for guys that are making money. But I would still argue that if everybody knew what Smash the Bid's strategy was and that he shared it with us, that it wouldn't work anymore. That's point A. Point B is, if that's the case, then there is a chance, and from my experience, a pretty good chance, that eventually the market will figure it out. I don't think that there's anything out there that is so fundamental to the market and yet creates such an edge that everybody could know about it and still make money. It just doesn't work that way. So, with all that said, remember, we got to be like, he says no fundamentals. The only fundamentals I use are checking Forex Factory to stay out during news. Well, that's one way of doing it, but that does sound fundamentals. But if that's the case, then I would still want to see like 2 years before I would give it like the final stamp of like, okay, this is a purely technical strategy that very clearly works and has infinite edge as long as everybody doesn't figure it out, I think I would need 2 years of consistent profitability. Because I have had situations, right? We've gone a good 6 months trading awesome. Like seriously, there was that, especially that first run that I ever had. Ooh. I felt so good about that first run. Says me too. I'll let you know when I get there. Yeah, okay. You're with me. You're smart, smashed a bit. I gotta admit, ever since day one, even when you like probe me on something, you're like, well, I'm not so sure that that's true. It's sometimes people will say stuff like that. It's just so dumb. And maybe I'll disagree with you, but it's always, you'll notice it's like I kind of almost have to sit and address it because it's like my brain can't handle it. It's like the cognitive dissonance is like, well, I've got to argue this one out because it's not just a dumb comment. But yeah, I had that one period that was like 3 to 6 months. It was so good. And then after that, it was just like I would lose every single freaking time. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I still can't explain that one. Like thinking back on it, I can't explain why it worked so well. And I can't explain how it stopped working so much other than that maybe the stream was getting too popular or something. Is a little bit of that going on with this thing, right? Like, I think that what I'm using is a really effective edge, but I don't think I'm the only person that has it. I think that the banks use this too. And I think that in a situation like this, that they explicitly make it come up short in a trend. Like the guy that's pushing it down for whatever reason, he lets it come back up and he says, okay, well, I don't want it to get above 06 half, so we're 2 ticks there already. The market's slowing down. Maybe now is a good time to flip it again.
Smash the Bid says I've had good runs, but never like this.
No?
Smash the Bid says I've never seen a strat firsthand that had several months with a 80% win rate with an equal risk reward.
No, I have seen, so there is one guy in particular. This is a pretty good sell, by the way. What's going on here? 30 years are at 1.2% roughly, pricing in 4 Fed hikes over the course of the next generation, says Rabobank. Wow. No, there's one guy in Discord in particular that showed me a good 3 or 4 months of a 70% win rate with equal risk reward on the E-mini. And I think he was only looking for 1 point. Maybe it was 1 point, maybe it was 2 points. That was the thing that was surprising to me about it was like equal risk reward with that small of a tolerance to actually catch it means that you really do have something that's quite amazing. And the one that weirded me out about that one was like, how can there be an edge like that out there like that and we can't see it? So I would really like to, and this was one of the guys that had learned from Gary Norton. So that's why I was like, well, geez, I gotta look at his course and see what he's doing. But then it comes out and everybody's like, yeah, it's just kind of, yeah. So I'm like, what is it? I don't know. Yeah, for him, I think that they were using volume on breakout. Or at least they were using some sort of a momentum strategy. Because it was not going against him very often. But when I tried doing that and I was just looking for spots where I saw a breakout and reversing it, I couldn't get it to work. There was one day I hit 70% and then the rest of the time it just didn't work. I tried that for 2 weeks. Gave that one 2 weeks. This one that I've been doing in the treasuries has been going pretty okay. Doing it in the E-mini has been really, really effective. But I haven't really done anything with it this week. I'm kind of sitting here like, does it still work? I don't know. I mean, I think I would have tried taking the shorts today. No, I take that back. I think that if I was really doing this at some point, maybe I would have gone long at 33.17. Yeah, 33.17. And then taking it to 20. So I might have been able to make 3 points off of it today if I had taken it. But it just doesn't seem like a lot of opportunity. So I'm concerned about, like, okay, when volatility continues to contract and all of that. I'm going to just have to adjust some things, I guess. But I also think that, especially last week, a large part of why it was being so effective for me was because it was combined with news. So it's like I can see a huge positional imbalance in the market, and then the news comes out that gives me a really good probability of being right, and I can just go in and it just goes. And I know exactly where it's likely to go to. That one's been working out well. I can never figure out the breakouts. I think they have potential of offering the best risk reward, but they are hard to time. Well, yeah. So I can show you in the E-mini. Man, this is where I think that the breakouts are really hard, right? It'll make this big. So can you see these spots where it will cross one of these lines and you'll end up getting a big candle? So here's a really good example. They broke the hourly open overnight at 33.12, and then once they broke that, they just went, right? So there's a line that gives you pretty good breakouts. Here again, pretty good breakout. You get these tails on it, right? But notice that they're tails, right? It's like as soon as they go through it, it's like you almost immediately have to get out. And how far are they going to go? It seems inconsistent to me. So might be one way of trading it. But today is a little bit different because today they've spent their time almost completely above that line in the overnight. And then here in the regular session, they've been riding that line for a while. Now, if we ever finally get below 33.16, then maybe this could flip really hard. And then maybe we start seeing this move down to the 08 area we've been talking about all day. But that tells you something, right? It actually sounds like that what Smash the Bid is doing is fairly counter trend. Although I bet you that it's really more like, well, like let's take for instance, you're trading the 10-year, right? So did you take the trades today and were they long or were they short? Because I'm going to bet that they were long. Or sorry, no, I'm going to bet that they were short. I'm going to bet that they were in line with the bigger trend, that they were shorts. Oh, it's 9:40. I've got to get going, guys. I've yapped way too long. Well, I tell you, we'll have to continue this later. I've got to go. August trading. I don't know what we're going to call today. Had one trade today, short for 6. Gotcha. Well, I'm going to come up with a name for today's video later, but I got to get going. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable.